how med spas get unlimited clients. If you're a med spa owner struggling to get unlimited number of clients, then this video is for you. My name is Ivan Merlo. I'm the owner of Newly Booked, a growth partner agency that has grown multiple med spas to multiple seven figures. And we've spent up to $12.50 a day on Facebook ads alone for just one location, promoting just a single service, getting exactly 297 new patients in the door in a single month and turning those patients into over $300,000 in monthly revenue. And today I'm going to show you how you can make the same thing happen and make Facebook ads feel like a casino where you're the house. So for most med spas, marketing and sales, and when I say most, I mean really all of them, marketing and sales are the constraint, right? Because a med spa is a marketing and sales business, essentially masked as a med spa. And the goal here is to not have that constraint. So if you want to grow, you need to always focus on, okay, what is the reason why I'm not growing, right? And for most spas, you'll probably realize, well, the reason why I'm not growing is because I'm either not getting enough patients in the door or I'm not making enough per patient that walks in the door, okay? So the goal to have an unlimited ad spend budget, right? Because if you have an unlimited budget, then that means that marketing and sales are no longer the constraint. And now the constraint will be, for example, fulfillment, right? Okay, now I just need enough freaking people or enough machines or enough rooms to handle all this volume. That is the goal. That is the thing that you should be aspiring to. That's what's going to allow you to grow really, really fast. Obviously, imagine if you didn't have to worry about getting new patients in the door. So the goal is to make a profit from new patients, right? For example, if you spend $1 on ads and within 35 days you make $30, well then you wouldn't have a marketing budget, right? You would just be trying to figure out, okay, how can I spend as much money as freaking possible so that I can keep on getting that that 30x multiple, for example. All right, so the goal is to make a profit from new patients. Now, the math kind of works like this, right? If like the minimum goal is at least like a 3-to-1 within 30 days, because if it's within 30 days, then that means that you can spend money, unlimited money, because most people have access to a 30-day loan interest-free in the name of a credit card, right? If you put money on a credit card and then you pay it off within 30 days, you paid no interest on that. So it's just free money. And so the goal is to at least get a 3-to-1 gross profit in a 30-day period. What does that mean? For example, if it costs me $500 to get a patient in the door, sell them a package, and fulfill on that package, right? So that means the injectors and the product and whatever. Let's say it cost me $500. Then I need to make $1,500 every time a patient walks in the door. That would be the objective. Why is that? Well, because that means that as soon as a person walks in the door, mathematically speaking, it pays for that person, that patient. The patient pays for themselves. It also pays for the next patient and the next patient, right? Because it's 1,500, right? And so I got 500, so I have 1,000 left, and then 500, right? And so at that point, you essentially have literally an unlimited budget. And so the goal will just be to spend as much money as possible until the next thing breaks, which will either be it gets too expensive, right? It's over $500, you're not able to make this multiple anymore, or your team just can't handle that volume anymore, right? For example, I bet a lot of med spa owners watching this video just physically can't handle 297 new patients a month, right? I bet you just can't handle that volume. Cool. So that's the goal. How do we want to get to this? Now, the easy way to do this is you want to focus on one treatment. And the way you do that is you want to focus on the treatment that feels just too easy to sell, right? Like this treatment, like you don't even consider it as a sale because it's just so easy. People just want to buy it. And so your next objective will be to figuring out how to sell it for an extremely high price. And essentially, this will make you have high margins, right? So this doesn't mean that you're going to be selling filler that costs you $650 and you're going to sell it for $1,000. That's not what I'm talking about. for example, what I'm talking about at my spas, we sell a package for sometimes up to $7,500, 7.5K, and it costs the spa just $50 in product, around, I'll be really generous, and around $100 in payroll to fulfill on that package. So essentially the fulfillment costs of the 7.5K package is $150. These are the type of crazy margins that I'm talking about that will allow you to essentially spend a boatload of money on acquisition and then just keep on growing from there. And so how do you sell at such a high price? Just to let you know, in every single market that we're in, where we're selling our packages, we are by far the most expensive people in the market. Okay. So when it comes to pricing, you have two different ways to win the game. You either want to be the cheapest one on the market, right? Not second cheapest, I mean the cheapest. And so, for example, if you go on Amazon, you see that the cheapest thing on the listing has like 40,000 5-star reviews, right? Or 40,000 whatever reviews. And then the second cheapest, even though it's just a little bit more expensive, but the second cheapest has like 10,000, like significantly less. And so second cheapest doesn't win here, it's the cheapest. And so what you're doing is you'd be optimizing your business to make up, like, offer the minimum viable product that people are willing to spend money on. It scratches their itch, but and you maximize your fulfillment costs to still make a tiny profit on this cheapest price. Now, it's really hard to be the cheapest price like provider and make a lot of money because you're going to need to do massive amounts of volume, right? Think Walmart, they have like a 4% margin or whatever, or Amazon, they have like a 3% margin. They need to service like all of the US to make their millions and billions of dollars, right? Now, my mom, for example, also, she runs a pretty big veterinary clinic up in the Northeast in the Boston area. And she was, for the longest time, not quite sure right now anymore, but she was the cheapest option. And the only way that they made a ton of money was they would be doing like tens, like 50, 70 surgeries in a day, or they'd be seeing just a boatload of patients, right? And the quality, so not quality of treatment, but they'd have to wait in the waiting room for a long time or whatever. There'd always be a huge wait line. People really didn't like that, but they still put up with it because they knew that this was the cheapest option and they couldn't get a better deal. So you can make a lot of money being the cheapest option, but you're going to be doing a massive amount of volume. I preferably, and what we do at my spas, is we like to be the most expensive option. We like to be the price leaders. And the cool thing about price leaders is that your level of service can be significantly better than anyone else's in the market because you just have so much more money to play around with. And it's just easier to do because you don't have to do this massive volume. So you can give like a lot more attention per person. Cool. So where a lot of med spas make a mistake is they like to be mid-market, right? So they look at their competitors and they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to be a little bit more expensive or a little bit cheaper. And that's kind of how they figure out their pricing. It's definitely not what you want to do. First of all, most med spa owners are broke. And so I don't think it makes a lot of sense trying to copy them. And second is that you now have like no different, you can't do anything different than them, right? You can't be the cheapest option because you don't have things maximized, like optimized to be the cheapest option. And you can't offer a crazy amount of service or high quality of service because you don't have the money to play with it. And then as soon as something bad happens in the market, right? Every 7 years there's a downturn in the market. The mid-pricing market is where businesses go to die. So you really have two options. You want to be the most expensive or the cheapest. Now, Ivan, how can you be the most expensive? I want to be the most expensive. So we've done this successfully. We are consistently, not even close, the most expensive in our local markets. There's a med spa in every corner and everywhere they're at. And a lot of my med spas, there's a med spa right across the freaking street. And we sell our services, at least like this, the treatment that we focus on, we sell it anywhere from 4 times higher to 10 times higher. Like it's not even in the same ballpark. And the reason why we can do that is because we understand value-based pricing. Okay? Which means that you need to understand that the patients that are buying your services, they are not buying the sessions. right? If you're going to say, oh, well, you can get, if you buy more, you can get 20 more sessions, or you can get XYZ more this or XYZ more that. The patients, this is commoditizing your services, right? Because then they're just going to look, okay, well, what other spa is also can give me these amount of sessions for a cheaper price, right? It's just about the sessions. You are literally a commodity. What you want to be pricing on is based on trying to understand what the patient is actually buying, right? And for the most amount, like most of the time, the patient is buying a feeling. They're buying an emotion, right? They don't care about weight loss. They don't care about skin tightening, right? What they care about, they don't even care about looking thin or looking younger. That's not what they care about. If looking thinner meant that you were poor because you didn't have money for food, then they wouldn't want to look thin. Just 100 years ago, 300 years ago, it was considered prestigious to be overweight. Because if you were overweight, it means that you had money to buy more food than you need, right? So it had nothing to do with the fat on your body, right? It has nothing to do with the wrinkles on your face. It's the feeling or the prestige, the social status that you're going to get from looking that sort of way that you want to look. And so this is what you're selling. And so you want to focus in your consultation, you want to focus and drive the point on this, not the sessions. Okay? Cool. Next, once you are successfully selling this high ticket treatment, whatever you have, and you are making boatloads of money on this, you are now not just cash flow positive, you're making a boatload of money on your ad spend. You're spending $3,000 a month on ads, and you're making $40,000, $50,000, $70,000 a month in return. Now what you want to do is you're going to want to increase your ad spend. Okay? I talk to so many spas. It's funny when I get them on like an initial consultation, a one-on-one with me, and they tell me, oh, I'm not making enough money, blah, blah, blah. And I say, okay, well, how much are you spending on ads? They tell me, I'm spending a lot. I'm spending $100 a day, Ivan. Can you believe it? But they're making a 15 or 20x return on their ad spend. And I just go, well, and they're thinking, oh, I just have to add a new service. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to figure out how I can make more money. It's quite obvious. Well, if you're making a 20x return, why aren't you spending, instead of $3,000 a month, why aren't you spending $30,000 a month? And I can tell you why, because they're afraid. And if you're afraid, you're not going to grow. So that is the second thing. You're going to increase your ad spend until it stops being profitable. Then you're going to go and optimize it. So a lot of spas, they get stuck in this optimizing. They're always trying to make it better, always trying to make it better. Don't keep on trying to make it better. If it's working, then you maximize. If it stops working, then you optimize. Okay, the goal is to make as much money as possible as you grow, not get stuck at one stage and because of fear, not go into the next stage. Okay, so that step is very important. You want to increase ad spend. After that, you are going to get to a stage, right? If you increase ad spend, it keeps on being profitable, increase ad spend, increase ad spend, increase ad spend. You're going to get to a point where you just can't handle the volume anymore. And this is where you're going to want to fix the fulfillment, right? And so, okay, now we're getting so many patients in the door, we're selling them a lot of packages, but now, for example, we don't have enough injectors, or we don't have enough rooms, or we don't have enough yada yada, whatever, right? So then you're going to want to fix that problem. Once that constraint is lifted, go back, increase ad spend again, right? So you just keep on repeating this. Now, eventually what's going to happen is you're increasing ad spend to a point, like let's say you go from $50 a day to $750 a day. You are going to get to a point where you're just not making enough money with the sales to negate the fact that your marketing is becoming less and less effective, right? So as you increase ad spend, your cost to acquire a new patient is always going to go up, and eventually your margins are going to shrink. And so here, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to figure out how you can price even higher. How can I increase my price even higher? For example, you can implement in your consultation how to get everyone to apply for a cherry, right? So for example, when I first flew out to one of my spas and stayed there for 90 days, on my second day there, I was just my job there was just being a fly on the wall and listening in to every single consultation. And what I saw was crazy. I noticed that when people got approved with Cherry, it seemed like they bought the package like almost every time and they paid for the whole thing up front. And this is where I had this eureka moment that the goal of the consultation is not actually to sell the treatment plan. The goal of the consultation is to sell the financing. Once we figured this out and we changed the consultation to focus around that, a crazy thing happened where it's like we just started making twice as many sales. And so that's like an example of how you can increase throughput. Another thing I remember when we first started selling our package, the package that we sell now for 7.5, we used to sell it for 2.6. And we're selling it for 2.6 for a long time. Things were going really good. And then I was like, hey, you know what? I reached out to the spouse. I'm like, hey, how about we sell it for 2.9 just to cover the Cherry fees? Like, oh, that's a great idea. So we started selling it for 2.9. Everything was A-okay. And I remember like 6 months after that, whatever, maybe even a year after that, it was September 2024. I was thinking, man, how do we sell the pack? We're selling it for 2.9. How do we sell it for 3.9? How can we do that? And I was thinking, man, maybe we add like skin tightening for 1,000, but I don't really like the margin on that. Just for 1,000, I want to sell it for a lot more. I'm like, man, how do we do that? How do we do that? And I really just had this mental belief, that limiting belief that we couldn't just sell it for more. And eventually I finally came to that conclusion. And I was like, why don't we just say 3.9 instead of 2.9? We started doing that. And guess what? We started selling the package for 3.9, and now 3.9 is the base. So we literally increased the price by 50% by doing nothing but just saying a number that was 50% higher. Crazy. Then after that, this actually just happened recently, I got a better understanding of what the patients are actually buying. And with that better understanding, we were able to position the product a little bit differently, the treatment a little bit differently. Really just a few words. We changed nothing fundamentally about the fulfillment itself. And with that, we were then able to start selling the package for 7.5K. 7.5K. So imagine that. We went from 2.6 to 7.5 without adding any additional costs to the package. So the med spa started making significantly more profit. And so this is what you want to focus on. If you get this down, then your business will just explode.